right, welcome back to the Rainy Cajun podcast. I'm here with, and we're just laughing because this was a funny episode. This is a great episode to do, and we're about to get into it. But welcome back, David.
Hey, just good to be back.
We're about to bring on Chef Jeremy. He is what a lively guy. But we'll talk about that after the fact, after the interview. But anyway. Let's go ahead and get into it with Jeremy because this is going to be a fun episode. Stick around. Of course, like what we always do at the end, we have an extra special recipe that we're going to share. Now, I will be the first one to tell you that this one is insane, and we talk about it during the episode. It's fairly involved, but man, it looks so good. It looks so good. So, in any case, stick around. We got the interview coming up, and we'll see you on the back end.
Yeah.
All right, Chef Jeremy, welcome to the Rainy Cajun podcast. We're so happy that you could join us today.
Man, guys, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So you're calling in from where exactly?
Oh, man, I'm coming to you from the great metropolis of Gonzales, Louisiana. So I'm perfectly situated in Louisiana, in between, of course, everyone knows New Orleans and Baton Rouge. If you were to follow the Mississippi River, in the middle point, nice little rural area, Gonzales, Louisiana. That's where you'll find me.
But when did you first get this taste for wanting to cook? You know, this kind of where you've ended up now today versus when? Can you think back to when you had that, where you first got the bug?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm the executive chef at Homus House Estate and Gardens, which is this wonderful, beautiful estate, one of the large tourist attractions here in Louisiana. It's a big, beautiful property, 35 acres. We got 3 restaurants on the property. I've been there all the way since 2005 to open up the first restaurants there. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to be cooking there. It's just really great. But man, going back, I guess, growing up in Louisiana, I didn't realize that I was in this great, wonderful culinary culture growing up. I had no idea. I just thought everybody ate boiled crawfish and etouffee and things like that. I just didn't know. I didn't know we had this great regional thing. So food was always such a huge part of my life. However, I was never really interested in cooking very much growing up. It wasn't until I'd gotten my first job at age 16. I'm very blessed. I have someone was looking after me for sure. But at the time, my first job was a dishwasher at White Oak Estate and Gardens, which is owned by, you guys know him, the premier culinary chef John Folse, just the Louisiana ambassador to the world. And but I didn't know that at the time. It was just my first job that my older brother, it was just a facility that my older brother was a banquet server at. He was able to get me on as a dishwasher when I was 16, just because I needed some pocket change in 1995, to put a little gas in my car and just I never had any interest in cooking. But once I started working there, it was fairly, I loved food. But once I just saw the people in the kitchen cooking, that just instantly excited me. Whether it was the fire, the smells, all the action going around. Honestly, 16-year-old me, all the chefs came walking in with toolkits full of big knives. And 16-year-old me thought, well, man, I want a toolkit full of big knives. That's awesome. And so I was just instantly attracted to this environment of all this action going on. And I was just absolutely drawn to it. So one day I was sitting around and my older brother happened to walk by. Like I said, he got me the job and he said, look, if you ever got downtime here in the little dish area, go in the kitchen and ask the chef there, hey, can you give a hand? And so I did that. And then her name was Carol Gunter. I owe her so much credit. She had brought me into the kitchen and showed me how to do something. And this was all the stuff they didn't want to do. Peeling potatoes. Right. Back then, we used to do a lot of weddings where we would do these big fruit displays. So like they would drop off 6 cases of pineapple, 6 cases of honeydew, and we would have to dice it all and stuff. So they would show me how to do things like this, but I just ate it up. I loved it. Yeah. And that just started me. I would go in early to work. at the time they wouldn't let you clock in or anything until 30 minutes maybe before your shift. Well, if I was scheduled at 4, I'd leave school. I'd go straight there. There would be a pile of dishes there. I'd wash those off the clock. So all my dishes were done. So I could then go into the kitchen and then just spend hours in there working. I loved it. So fast forward, just doing that over and over. After about 3 months, they wind up saying, "Look, we can tell you want to be in the kitchen." They brought me in there full time, and I just loved it. It was from that point on. I knew I wanted to be a chef. I knew I wanted to just learn. I became absolutely obsessed. I would just try to soak up everything I could. And this was a catering place. And by the time I graduated high school, they were letting me run entire events and this, that, and the other.
Wow.
And then, like I said, I'm so blessed because no disrespect to Denny's, but I could have been washing dishes at Denny's. But wouldn't you know, I ended up at this place that was run by this world-renowned chef. And so by the time I graduated high school, he had kind of taken a notice to me. And he wound up giving me a full scholarship to his culinary program at Nicholls State University. So I did that. By the time I graduated, I'd moved over to his restaurant at the time called Lafitte's in Donaldsonville, Louisiana, another big metropolis. And I wound up traveling the world with Chef Folse, and then also running his world-renowned restaurant. And all the way back in 2001. I was only 22 at the time, but the chef had left, and he wound up he had me on a short leash, but he wound up making me executive chef at 22 years old. And it was a very small little restaurant that I was running under him. And I mean, I just absorbed so much from John, and I just owe him so much. And what are the chances of this guy who, like I said, had not necessarily passion, no interest in pursuing some culinary career to ended up working there? And wouldn't you know, the person I'm working under is someone who has the most extensive knowledge of Louisiana traditions and Cajun and Creole traditions and culture. I mean, what are the chances of that happening? Mm-hmm. And so I just soaked up all that like a sponge. And I mean, still to this day, I just saw John this morning, and we're still very close. I owe him so much. And that's just kind of how I got my start.
I had heard a lot of the story in the background, and I guess because White Oak, I think he acquired it sometime in the late 80s, early 90s. So it hadn't been open that long when you started.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah, sure.
And I mean, that time, I mean, and I agree, because I mean, my experience with John has obviously been from a fan to a friend with mutual interest with, the Melitons and other stuff, but he's always been very generous especially if he can see that you've got a passion for something and he's got a similar passion. And so he'll help you with that. So that's great that y'all had that opportunity and that you ended up where you ended up. I looked at your foods, that I see your recipes, and they are very, for people who haven't checked it out, we'll talk about it more later, but I mean, just the way you everything from your food is what do they call it? You got a Nouvelle Louisiana or something like that? Or
just kind of, it's kind of, sure. My approach to my cooking has always been, look, I make no qualms about it. I'm a Louisiana chef. I have an absolute, because of John, I have an absolute appreciation for the history, the culture, the traditions. I have just such a huge appreciation for that. And how I try to approach food is I either want to honor the past, but B, not feel constrained to it, and try to maybe play within some new things as well. But at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to that foundation. That the foundation of Cajun and Creole cuisine to me is everything for my style of cooking. All the cool chefs today, whether they're putting Asian influences and this, that, and other, and all kind of great fusions and what have it be. Awesome. I love it. I love experiencing everybody's different foods. It's one thing for me, even as a chef now, God, I'll have been next year I'll have been a professional chef for 30 years. So and reflecting on those years, I really feel like I've really kind of come into what I would call, I guess, my style really in the last 10. And that's really acknowledging that foundation that I kind of come from, with always being rooted in those Louisiana traditions, but again, honoring the past, but looking to the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it comes through from when I've seen your work, and I guess and you've gone back and forth some, I guess, between was it the official name of the restaurant is Latil's Landing? Is that right? At home?
Well, yeah. You can get confused. At Homus House, we got 3 restaurants there. So we have Latil's Landing, and that's like our prefixed fine dining, white tablecloth, 5-course menu you could have. We change that menu 4 times a year. Then we have our Carriage House restaurant, which is kind of our everything restaurant. You've got everything from a po' boy you can get up until our A9 Wagyu filet mignon and all the things in between. And then we have a very casual restaurant called Dixie as well, which is open just for lunch, and it's very casual.
So you oversee all 3 of those, basically?
I oversee all of them. Yeah, I oversee all of them. But at the end, each one of those restaurants, of course, we're at a I'm so blessed as a chef again that I'm cooking with the backdrop of this historic Louisiana property. I mean, Homus House dates back to 1773. That's older than Louisiana Purchase. So it's this historic site. So what better venue to honor and showcase Louisiana cuisine than Homus House? It's just perfect.
Yeah. I first went to Homus House, I think in 2010 or 2011 when I was doing work over in Baton Rouge. We didn't go to the restaurant. I still hadn't been to the restaurant, so I got to come to the restaurant. But then it took the family, I think it was during COVID actually, or toward the end, we went, and that was when the museum had opened next door. The Great River Road, is it River Road or River Parish Museum? I can't remember. It's
River Road, yeah. Great River Road Museum, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's Mr. Kelly who's done a lot of those things there. So that restaurant that you started, those 3 restaurants started about the time you started there. Is that what you helped start those?
Oh yeah. Dave. I had opened them up. Different ones came on through the years. We initially just started off with our Latil's restaurant, and it was a little different back then. But this was January of 2005. So we're approaching our 20th anniversary next year as well, just for that restaurant. And then later on our more casual restaurant came aboard, and then when the museum finished construction, we opened in 2021 another restaurant as well. And look, and then if you interview me again 10 years from now, I'll probably be overseeing 2 or 3 other restaurants at that property. We just keep growing. It's insane.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it, man. You look so young for being so long in the industry. And, there's certain industries that just age you, right? And I'm sorry, working back a house, that ages you real quick. I don't know how you do it. You got the Fountain of Youth in Gonzales or something. I don't know, man.
Man, Jeremy, I appreciate it. Look, I mean, if this could be a 10-hour podcast, and I could give you stories and stories about some of the ups, downs, the highs, and oh boy, the lows too, of just being a chef and just that grind. I mean, it's very common, and again, no disrespect, but I can't tell you, it's a very common situation for a lot of chefs where they'll go hard in their 20s, oftentimes around the early 30s. A lot of chefs will drop off and seek other different careers or this, that, and other. Sure. I just don't have any other skills. This is all I know. So I'm just hard-headed like that. Like again, no disrespect, but if it wasn't for being a chef, I could maybe be a Uber driver or
give yourself some credit. Come on.
But
you're selling yourself short.
This is all I've done. This is all I've done since 1995.
Well,
so
hey,
it's all I know.
That's awesome. I mean, you found your place. I think like you were saying, there are lots of stories. There's definitely the war stories, being in the trenches, and I mean, how you were so enthusiastic being in the dish pit, I have no idea. I avoided that like the plague. I was like, no, you go do that. It was for me when I was running the restaurant. I had no desire to be part of the dish pit, but I did see you do run across personalities like yours that are they're in it, they're just in it. And you've definitely, where you have started in the dish pit, and now you're executive chef over several restaurants in an amazing setting in Southeast Louisiana. I mean, could you imagine?
No, God, no, I couldn't have. And not just that, but I happened to come along this time. Like I said, I got my start in 1995. I mean, other than the very high-end restaurants, maybe kind of in that golden age of fine dining in the 80s,
Yeah.
other than that, like the cooking profession wasn't considered this glamorous thing. And now
Right.
you got, now it's the Food Network and Top Chef and the TV shows and all this stuff. If you would have told me before, if you would have told a 12-year-old Jeremy that because you learned to cook, you would get to travel the world, you get to meet celebrities, you get to do all these, it's unimaginable. Like sometimes even I think it's a little over the top. I'm thinking to myself, man, I just cook for a living. There's like doctors that are like saving lives. How come there's not like reality shows based on why is there not Top Doctor instead of Top Chef or whatever, right?
Well, they have Dr. Pimple Popper. I mean,
well, there you go. Yeah.
Let's do that one.
But yeah. So I happened to come along this time, and like I said, had you have told me that before, that because of this little thing I happened to get obsessed with and fell in love with, that I would get to go on this insane ride,
right,
I would have never believed it. Like it's just been fantastic.
And I guess because like you're talking about, and you know it way better than I would, but just from observing on the outside, all the things I've always heard was the traditional ways, especially prior to the Culinary Institute, is working your way up through starting at washing dishes through the different stations in the kitchen and until you basically graduate as an apprentice and move up and get to a point where you can be the head chef. So you actually had both that as well as the university education side by side through Nickel State. So you got a kind of the 1-2 punch there with the with both of those things, the traditional and the non-traditional, I guess.
Sure. I get asked a lot, is culinary school valuable, or should you just work, or this, that, and other? I honestly think of course, just like so many other professions, there's no one singular way of going to do it. Sure. And I think it's the beautiful thing about this industry is that there's millions of stories probably like mine, as someone who started off as a dishwasher and went on to just rise through the ranks. That's very common. But I think culinary school is just as important too. But again, I have part of my team. I have some people who went to culinary school, some people who didn't, some people, that kind of both, where they started off and went up. I think there's valuable things you get from both. Of course, the experience of just working at the restaurant, being on the line, just the day-to-day functions of and the daily activities. You just learn so much just through osmosis, just working in there. But a lot of times what's great for culinary school is the fundamentals that you really, because a lot of times by the time you get in a restaurant, sometimes you're just expected to know certain fundamentals. No one's at the restaurant's going to pull you to the side and say, no, this is a julienne, this is a baton, this is a brunoise, this is a fine dice. Certain things you just either know or you don't know, and no one's really going to have the patience to want to probably teach you. So having both was really valuable for me, but there's no right or wrong way. You can go to culinary school, but the one thing I will suggest to people who just go the culinary school route is don't expect to graduate culinary school and you're going to get some big job directly after it, because you really need, the cook. Whenever you get to the level of executive chef, the cooking should just be a given. It becomes much more about management people skills, organization, number one, just being able to organize and plan and this, that, and other. Those skills are way more important than just what they're going to teach at culinary school to be able to function at these high levels.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, as far as like, how much does culinary school prepare you for the management aspect of things? And it sounds like maybe that,
they try, I guess, well, at least under my circumstance, it was good, but nothing, flying. You could do a flight simulator all day, but I'm sure once you're up in the air in that plane, it's another experience, right? It's another experience. That's kind of how it is in cooking, just that day-to-day grind, that the restaurant industry is a grind. It's day-to-day, every day, especially like, God, even where I work, it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week. We close 2 days, Christmas and New Year's Day. So it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. That's a grind. That's every day. You know what I mean? Things are happening every single day. So just getting those reps in is absolutely valuable as well.
I was going to say that I guess you like talking about taking the two alternative paths. The problem, I guess, with doing it the old way of working through different kitchens is it's all going to depend upon who you're working for and what they're able to teach you. And I can see that the culinary institutes would allow you to actually have a focus on, like you said, the fundamentals and certain things. So you may get to the point that you need to be in a faster pace in certain respects, but then you still have to put the reps in at the different restaurants and such. But as opposed to the other traditional methods, you might get ahead, I guess, from a skill set, getting exposure to those things a little sooner, going through maybe the curriculum that's maybe set up. So that's just what I would think, just based upon looking at that from an experiential standpoint. Because like you said, I mean, I'm an engineer, and all engineer firms are different too. And so we get some people that you got individuals who can teach you things that they've had experience with, and that helps you along. And then you got others who've been there for a long time, and they still can't help you with what you need to know. So I can see the benefit of both.
100%. And then, mentors are such a big thing too. I try to be a mentor to my staff. I always give my credit to Chef Folse. And that's another thing that I tell people interested in going in the industry. Find the best place that you can work at. And it might be no matter what town, what city you're in, just look up people know whatever the best restaurants are. Try to find the best people to work under, because it really is a craft. It's really knowledge that people pass down to each other, especially when you're first getting started, and especially if you're lucky enough to be someone younger where you don't have all these big life responsibilities just yet. That's whenever, if I could have gone and even staged at other places now, I just see that as so valuable. Because the mentorship that you can get from other people will just teach you so much.
Yeah, I agree. So one of the questions I had for you was with the standpoint of, thinking about it from a standpoint of where you're working compared to, how that works as far as you describe the beautiful grounds of Homus House, and, you're situated out, where is it? Is it Darrow? Is that the exact town? Is that the right name for it?
Yeah, yeah. Very little town called Darrow, which is, like I told you, I was from Gonzales. You cross over a railroad track right outside my house, and boom, you're in Darrow. But
and they actually have, quite actually in that area, they used to have the old Houmas restaurant that's been closed for a while now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And was it the Cabin, I guess, which is around the corner, which is, I guess, kind of a venue, not a venue per se, but it's kind of tries to harken back with some of the old, I guess, Cajun stuff. But so that point is, as I'm just thinking, like the standpoint, when people think of Baton Rouge and New Orleans as destinations, and they go to those restaurants, and you're working in the city, how do you find like the groups that come to Homus House? Are they mostly the tourists that are coming to the house, or coming to the River Road, or do you have the locals that come all the time too? And is there a difference that you see working at a restaurant there versus maybe, say, in a city?
To answer your first question, the guests we get at Homus House is actually quite a mixture. It's a mixture of three different things. We do well with locals, but then also Homus House, when people come to visit Louisiana, in particular from outside of the country, or maybe from afar from Louisiana, maybe all the way to the East Coast, West Coast. When people come to Louisiana, they want to see two things. They want to experience New Orleans and the French Quarter, and they want to see the historic houses and properties outside of that in Louisiana. So Homus House is probably the third highest visited historic estate in Louisiana. So of course we get people, oh man, you would be England, French people all the times. Like we have a tour guide on our property that does tours, nothing to do with me. And we always offer one French. We always have on staff one person who just speaks French, because we get so many guests from France, those kind of travelers. And then also, like I said, we're perfectly situated between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So we become this destination restaurant. We're very much, because Homus House, of course I'm going to be biased, but it's arguably probably the most beautiful property in the entire state.
Very beautiful.
Again, to be biased, but it's probably the most beautiful. So it becomes this attraction or this destination. Whether it's, we just kill it on, we're like a destination special occasion restaurant. If someone's having a birthday, an anniversary, graduation time, Valentine's Day, holiday times, weddings, that's our bread and butter. So we're constantly having people who want to get out of New Orleans and just go for a nice drive and come to a beautiful property.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with Baton Rouge as well. So that's kind of the mix. People driving in from Baton Rouge, New Orleans, the locals from the area, and then people just from way afar that are touring, because we do have overnight accommodations as well. So a lot of people will come and stay with us. We have cottages, we have 28 rooms. So people will stay oftentimes overnight with us as well and dine at one of our restaurants.
You do a lot of office like meetings too. I know you got weddings and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, we're such a big property. We do. So on any given day, we have our 3 restaurants. We do probably about 70 to 80 weddings a year. And then we're, being a historic property, we're in the tourism circuit too. So we have buses daily coming oftentimes out of New Orleans that are dropping off anywhere from 40 to 80 people at a time that tour the house, and then we feed them as well. So we're in that tourism circuit. And then also we have, we do a lot of these, will be retreat areas for companies that want to do meetings as like a retreat. So meeting spaces, stay overnight, dine, things like that.
Now the carriage house, that's the one that's in the back, right? That's in the older building, the original. So
Latil's is very small, fine dining. I mean, we might have 40 seats, and that's the preset 5-course menu, and that's located directly in the main mansion. And then there's a separate building kind of off to the side connected to our Garçonnière, which is this old structure on the property. And that's our carriage house restaurant. There we probably have about 100 seats. And like I said, that's kind of our everything kind of restaurant. It's our biggest a la carte menu and this, I know it's probably our busiest day-to-day restaurant.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because I know when you go through which we've seen in the videos that you've done, and the wonderful old kitchen that's there, and I was just thinking from the standpoint of the servers, and if you're eating in the older part, just trying to get up those stairs, I guess y'all have some sort of elevator or something to get to it, or they got to walk up the stairs for all that.
Oh, they walking, they walking, man. But oh yeah, wow. We call that's our Homus house workout plan there.
Right. Yeah, get your steps in for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely very, like I said, the atmosphere there is beautiful, and of course, me liking gardens, not just the beautiful gardens and the statuary outside and the landscaping, but I also have a kind of the passion with the vegetable garden, and so I know they've had small gardens out there. Now, I don't know, are they big enough that you can harvest anything and cook with, or is it mostly just kind of a demonstration garden type thing?
Well, no, not necessarily just a demonstration, David, but 2 things that we're able to grow great, and it's really wonderful as a chef too. We kill it on herbs. Like herbs, we grow just herbs are the one thing that you can kind of plant them and they just grow well, and they grow enough to where, there's certain times of the year. Oh my God. Like right now, I could probably give all the basil away. I could provide Baton Rouge with basil right now. It just takes over. We grow a lot of varieties of basil. So we try to plant around that. It's very rare I actually have to order herbs. Around March, we'll plant for tomatoes, which we'll harvest kind of starting mid-May through about mid-June. We're just overloaded with it's tomato specials every day at Homus house. Like we're just overflowing with them. Other than that, we'll plant things and they grow a little here or there, but it's not really enough to, I can't plan a menu around it. I don't get that much volume out of it, but herbs, crush it with the herbs. We grow all kind of herbs, barely have to even order herbs, which is just a blessing as a chef, just to be able to grow your own and things like tomatoes. But other than that, we're able to grow some small things that become little specials here or there. We got fig trees on the property, other than fighting the birds to get to the figs, during the seasons that they're in they're ripening and in full bloom. We'll have a lot of that too. And then we got some great satsuma and kumquat trees that nice. Around the fall that they're there. We'll use as much as we can, and then we'll harvest the rest. And then I'll make chutneys and jar them and things like that with them. So so a couple of things like that we're able to kind of grow and produce right there on the property.
When you're planning a menu or seasonal menu, what kind of influences that, and or what influences recipe creation for you? Because like I said, you talked about giving homage to the Louisiana roots and all that. I mean, is there anything in particular that, like the history of the home, is there anything that was traditionally served there that you try to do a version of today, or anything like that you've got any historic records on?
Sure. There's a couple things like wine vendors or wine ships, because we're located on the Mississippi. Wine ships used to dock at the area where Homus house was and drop off wine. So we always do a steak marchand de vin, which means merchant's wine sauce. So we always try to honor some things like that. Now, whenever it comes to planning menus, it's just kind of look. I'm a kooky chef sometimes, so there's no like great formula or anything like that. Oftentimes, of course, when we're going to plan a menu, because our carriage house menu will change 2 to 3 times a year. Our Latil's menu, which is the fine dining preset, we change 4 times a year, one with each season. So, of course, like all chefs, most menus are 100% or trying to be seasonal. You know what I mean? Where we want to plan around the seasons of what's going to be in there. But other than that, oftentimes it's certain inspirations at the time. Look, sometimes I might travel somewhere, eat something, and it just blows my mind, experience something new, and then I'll come and maybe do a twist on it, but always adding that Louisiana influence. Or sometimes I'll take certain ingredients and I try that aren't typically associated with Louisiana and say, what can I do to make it Louisiana? Like, for example, I love rack of lamb. It's one of my favorite things. Well, lamb isn't really a Louisiana known thing. No one, when they think of Louisiana, they don't think of lamb or anything, right? So I'm always trying to think, how do we just add Louisiana flavor? Everything needs to come back to that. So like, for example, it was on our original menu when we opened up in 2005 was, we have this community coffee, which is the local coffee of Louisiana that everybody in Louisiana drinks. So we did a community coffee marinated rack of lamb. So always looking to bring in those flavors. We do a duck dish. Well, duck's quite common in Louisiana, but we're pairing it with Beauregard yams, local yams, and then topping it with a sweet and savory praline sauce. So almost everything is, we take a dish, how can we relate it? How can we connect it to what people think of when they think of Louisiana dishes? Creme brulee, every restaurant you go to has a creme brulee. We did a mint julep creme brulee because when people go to these historic sites and plantations, they think of mint juleps. So we take mint and rum and infuse those flavors into a dessert. So it all comes back. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I approach everything. I take a dish and what's a dish I can do? Well, some dishes, I can do a seafood gumbo. Well, boom, that's already Louisiana. But to take something that might be a little bit different, foie gras. I love foie gras. So I do a foie gras pain perdu, which pain perdu is the classic Cajun Louisiana Creole French toast. So taking that, so I put the foie gras, sear the foie gras, put it on the pan, little slice of pain perdu, and then top it off with the same kind of berry syrup that you would put on top of your pain perdu, but savory it up just a little bit and just put it together. So everything always gets retranslated, kind of like it's run through the Louisiana filter, right? And then that kind of just like you got your Instagram filters, I got my Louisiana culinary filter. So I'll take a dish and I just slap the Louisiana culinary filter on top of it.
David, you had to go there, man. It's like, Jesus. I ate right before we started this, and I'm thinking I'm gonna make it through, and I'm hungry again. Yeah, just talking about this.
I looked over
you know where to find me.
You saw my
I looked
facial
over at your
expression?
face, and I could see you looking like, oh my God.
God. Anyway.
And kind of the same thing I saw. So I was going to say, you and I started, I got to really know you a lot better, I guess, after the boucheries, when you were doing some cooking there with the group back in the boucheries, and then started following you on Facebook and all. And I guess it's been 4 years or so when you really started doing a lot of the live Facebook cooking demonstrations.
Sure. Yeah.
And now you got a YouTube channel now as well. That's kind of what I was going to say, because you shared with us the story about it, but for everybody else, you kind of got into doing the different segments. Because do you still do them on the same basis, or do you kind of switch it up a little bit now?
Well, I'm trying to be a little more consistent with it now. We moved them from Thursdays to Fridays, but yeah, we're doing them. Well, that came out of COVID. Well, it started during COVID. So, flashback to March of 2020. If you were in the restaurant industry, I mean, it was probably one of the most heavily hit industries in our entire country under the COVID lockdown. I mean, God knows how many restaurants closed and never reopened. And whenever COVID hit us at Homus House, again, always like to go back to how I feel so blessed, because we had our owner, Kevin Kelly, we just kind of battened down the hatches. I mean, just think about it. We were a property totally dedicated to tourism, and then tourism just disappeared for 2 whole years,
Yeah.
So this is like the first week of COVID, and we're doing nothing. I think they let us do a little bit of box food, but even that, we weren't doing nothing to go food. We weren't doing a bunch of that. We had this wonderful, our social media coordinator. She had approached me and said, "Hey, I have nothing to post. I have nothing to talk about. We were just looking to do something." And she said, "What if we would you be willing we'll go live and you'll do a little cooking video?" And I said, "Okay, sure." We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, she pulled out her phone, and we didn't even have it. We had it this way, which I guess on TikTok now, that's cool, but we didn't have it that way. And I went and set it up, no microphones, nothing, just a phone. And we went live on Facebook. And like I said, this is probably about 6 days into the official first COVID lockdown. And I know everybody must have been bored, just playing on their phones. Everybody was probably home, because she closes up the video and she said, "There was 800 people watching live." I said, "What?" And then I mean, we just went, and then I just kept watching the view count of that video. By the end of the first week, we had 20,000 views. I couldn't believe it. And then she said, "Well, hey, we got to do another one next Thursday." I said, "Okay, count me in." And that's just what started it. And I got to tell you, I was so damn nervous on that second one, because it was just like I was cool as can be for the first one, but when she told me all the people, I was like, "Oh, I didn't think people were actually going to watch or anything."
Yeah, ignorance is bliss, right? You're just like da 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 da, and the next thing you know, what? So yeah.
Now that's got me through this whole rabbit hole, and now it's I try to produce a weekly little cooking demonstration, and it's evolved over the those years since then. It used to be I did them live, and that was kind of fun. Me and Jesse would go live, and she would kind of look at the computer, and maybe someone would drop comments and ask questions, and I'd just be cooking, and that was kind of fun. But eventually it got into a point where, I would look at the live viewership compared to the views that would go on later. It was minuscule. So instead of just doing them live, I decided to, I really wanted to step up kind of the overall production quality of what we had. And again, we put this together with like Scotch tape and toothpicks. Like I watched the YouTube videos of how to do this stuff. This is like so far out of my wheelhouse. And just over time, it's just, I tried to make each video better than the one I did before. And now I'm just getting to the point now, 4 years later, where I'm kind of happy with them, but they've been great. I get such a good response. People are just so nice about it. Most things, you see on the internet, sometimes it can just be this crazy wild place. It's been nothing but positive to me. That the response has been nothing but really positive. And I look forward to doing them. So it's fun just to do these little weekly demos. So I produce, Facebook is, I got my YouTube channel, but really Facebook is the Homus House Facebook page is where we get the most traction. And we post our weekly videos there. They go up every Thursday at noon. We drop a new video.
Yeah. And like we talked about when we saw you in person in February. What I've enjoyed watching your videos too is that your style is instructional, and especially now, I notice you've gotten different camera angles where you're getting right up on the food, as you've already described how you're doing and what you're doing. That I watched that pork chop with the blueberry sauce on it again. Man, that was really Looks good.
We're good. We're good.
I need to go get some blueberries.
Just stop. It's killing me.
You need to watch it.
You know, David, that goes back. I guess you could say my style or whatever. It goes back to John Folse. Guys, just Google John Folse, watch him cook. Like I used to set up John's demos. I've watched him do hundreds of demos, and let me tell you something. That man, when he's in front of a group of people or TV, whatever has it, he is a presence. He just does. I mean, probably one of the most dynamic public speakers I've ever seen in my life. He's just so talented at that. So I really absorbed a lot of that in him. But like when I started doing my cooking demos, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be like Chef Folse. I'm gonna be like John. Well, let me tell you, he's all personality, and me, I'm kind of a nerd. I'll say like John will say jokes. They're not funny jokes, and people laugh because he's got a sage presence. I'll tell my jokes whenever I'm doing things. I get crickets. You know what I mean? And so what I found when I started doing my demos or whenever I do my cooking demonstrations now is I kind of find where I have the most value that I can offer is really just I like to laser focus in on some of the techniques or this, that, and other. Not getting too sidetracked, but even think of like cooking shows. If you watch a cooking show on the Food Network, oftentimes there'll be a show that, they cook 3 or 4 dishes. There's the commercial breaks in between. But I remember all the way back in the 90s, my favorite cooking show was a cooking show called Taste. And I forget the guy's name, but he was like the editor of the New York Times food section. This would have been like 1995. And what I loved about that show is he would take one dish, oftentimes a dish everybody knows, chicken parmesan, something like that. But he would drill down into every single detail about that dish. And that was my favorite show. So that's kind of what I try to bring whenever I do, like, because in cooking, like everything in life, no matter what your craft is or what your field is, every single detail is important. Why you dice the onions a certain way? Why do you mince the garlic as opposed to sliver the garlic? Each detail you do is important. So I just try to deep dive and explain everything I'm doing. Why am I browning the fish in the flour? And why am I not flipping it just yet? And I want to get that caramelization on it because you're developing a crust. You're developing flavor. I try to just explain each little detail as we go through. And I feel that's kind of how I provide the most value.
So one of the things that you took me on the tour of at when I was visiting back in whatever that was, February, March, you showed me the old kitchen, and that is your backdrop for what you're doing. Have you switched over into the main kitchen now, or are you?
Well, Homus house is now so busy. There's the old kitchen I love cooking in. It's like a studio. Like you couldn't design a better studio for what I wanted to do than our historic kitchen that is part of our tour at Homus house. But as I just said, it's part of what people come to see. So I either have to get in there at like 7, like I have windows from like 7:00 in the morning to 8:00 where I can shoot in there. And that's about it for the whole day, because we do tours all the way to 8:00 at night. Wow. So I try to get in there as much as I can, but then I have 3 different kitchens in the property. So if I'm not in the old kitchen, I'll shoot in one of the kitchens that has nothing going on at that time. So it's purely just kind of a matter of convenience and what's going on. But that old historic kitchen is by far my favorite place to be in when I can be in there.
And that's the oldest part of the building, right?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that's the oldest part of the house. There's 4 rooms right there. And like I said, that dates back to 1773. That's old. Some of the cypress boards in there are that old. So yeah, it's the oldest part of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Have you gone back and watched Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte from the 60s?
Oh yeah. I've seen it. Like it's almost weird for me to watch it because just my knowledge of Homus house, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte was this old late 70s horror movie that starred Betty Davis, and all the outside shots is Homus house. I'm like, oh, there it is. But every now and then, even like you'll see one character go around one corner and then they end up at another side of the property, and I'm like, wait a second, that's not where that is. Like in relation, it's all like Hollywood magic. And then, but then all the interior shots were all done in a studio. So there's like a
Right.
famous scene, like Homus House has this beautiful winding staircase, and there's
Yeah.
a scene where a head rolls down a staircase,
Yeah.
but that's not Homus House. That's on a set somewhere.
Yeah, because I kind of wondered. I watched it after we went to the. I went to the back in 2010, and I just remember the opening scene when I guess one of the porters is out there doing something in I guess which was been the old carriageway in between the old house and the new house,
Yeah.
or the new portions of it. And I remembered, this is 50 years later. I'm looking at it, I was like, wow, man, I know exactly where that is, and it looks almost identical from that standpoint, just because the way it was still preserved. So it was
Sure.
kind of, I can imagine, yeah, that's kind of some of a surreal moment to see that. And then that's why I wanted to ask you, because with you being there all the time and seeing that, and then kind of comparing it to how it was shot. Because I know they also filmed at a couple other places around there too. And so, I guess it's a artistic license of the directors and such.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Oh
Often
man, there's so
happens.
much Hollywood magic like that
Yeah.
that you don't realize. Just like working in the kitchen, it's all, some of the things that happen behind the scenes. You'd be
Right.
surprised how certain things are done.
Don't pay attention to anything going behind the curtain here. That's not for you.
Well, I
to
was going to
see.
say, one of the things, like talking about your cooking videos, and when you even referenced some of the stuff with John's, you're discussing things like you dice it because this has got to cook a long time, so you don't want your vegetables to basically disintegrate. You want them to kind of take a little longer to break down, so you cut them a certain, bigger or smaller depending on what dish you're doing. So when you get that explanation behind it, then it makes a lot more sense, and at least for me, it stuck. You can learn a lot from your videos and from John's if you're paying attention to the right things. And like I said, that's why I think that they appeal to me, is because I learn a little bit every time I see something.
So now that you've got this is still ongoing. You said you moved it to Fridays. Did the numbers after COVID and people started returning to Homa's house, have the numbers kind of stayed consistent? Have they dropped down? Have they gone up? Where is it at?
It's been a kind of a mix of everything, Jeremy.
Okay.
And there's no rhyme or reason, or nothing that at least I can figure out. And I try not to. Again, this is this is something that I really do for fun. It's not like some like I enjoy doing them, but it's not
Right.
my main thing. I'm going to quit my job and become a food influencer or anything like that. So I'm not like, I know there's people who will dig down and really study the algorithm or this, that, and other. I haven't done that. And I'm as surprised as anybody on my most viewed video of all time is one I would never expect. So I did the seared scallops with a champagne butter sauce. It's got 200,000 more views than my next video. For whatever reason, that video just blew up, and I can't tell you why, and I don't want to necessarily follow and say, well, it's scallops now all the time, baby. But there's no reason. And then there's certain dishes that maybe I'll really be excited about. I think they're neat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they come, they go. Certain ones take off. I tell you what, Melitol always does really well. I do that a couple times a year, and even those recipes, David, whenever I share those recipes, sometimes I'll do a Melitol soup or something like that. I think that one of those Melitol dishes was one of my most shared recipes as far as the little shared button. So I wish I knew what makes one pop off more than another, but it's always been pretty consistent.
So the other question I had for you was that most of your, because a lot of folks that have been in the industry as long as you have, at some point they've put together some cookbook, and I know that you've got a lot of recipes you've submitted to various magazines and stuff. Have you considered? And you can find a lot of your recipes online and at the Homus House website, and they're beautifully displayed and everything. Have you thought about putting anything together as a book yet?
So I'll show you something, David. Let me swirl on. I am working and editing one as we speak. So
nice.
Where's the camera? So this is where it's being proofread and double checked.
Nice.
So I'm hoping to have something out this year. So
awesome.
Working hard on it.
Oh, good.
Is that an exclusive we just got there, or is that the
There
people
you
know
go.
about
Yeah, I'm breaking it here. Breaking it
like,
here.
all right, I'll
Breaking
take
it right here, guys.
So
Well,
is this,
definitely.
I'll be back if y'all have me back on when it comes out. Just let me know.
do
Oh,
you
we
know if it's
definitely
available
will.
yet for pre-order? Do you know
Oh,
if
well,
people like on Amazon or something like that? Do you know if you're?
Oh no, I'm not. I'm
no.
not that. I'm not. I'm hoping to be there soon, but I'm not
Okay.
at that point yet to really have all that set up just yet. Like I
Okay.
said, right now I'm doing it all myself, so it's going to be
Oh.
self-published. It's going to be
Okay.
so because you know how I see this really being sold the best is Homus House has a gift shop.
Sure.
And then we do a lot of
Yeah.
cooking demonstrations on site for guests and this, that, and other. So I kind of figure from my personal situation, 90% of all the books I imagine I'm going to sell are going to be directly to the guest at the property of Homus House.
Okay.
So I'm kind of doing it all myself. I'm having someone else kind of go back and just edit it and this, that, and other. But
Yeah.
we're working hard on it.
Well, cool. Yeah, because I've only got 60 something Cajun Creole cookbooks, so I think, or maybe it's 80. I can't
Gotta have
remember.
one
I told you,
more.
Jeremy. There's always
got
room
quite a
for
bit.
one more. The reason I was asking is because I had bought this book, or I got this book, and I didn't expect to find. I don't know if I can show it to you. Does that show?
Oh, yeah, look at that guy right there. I'm 25 years old. And that's a 20-year-old photo of me.
You look the same, dude.
That's in the Christmas in New
Oh,
Orleans.
yeah. Oh, yep. Sure. Yeah, that's great.
So I'd gotten it, and I think I had read through about half of it, and then I got to the point, and I think I stopped right before the food, and I didn't even realize there was a whole section on food, and then I opened up and I saw you, and it was like, huh. And that's what started making me think. I was like, I wonder when he's got a cookbook coming out. So now we know.
So do you have a favorite? Do you have one that's just like, I love this, I can make this anytime, I'm super proud of it, or just it's a good standby to have? What's your poison?
I'm a cheat. I'm not going to answer your question directly, but I will give you an answer.
Okay.
So I guess a lot of people ask me, what's your favorite thing to cook, which is kind of the same question.
Right.
There's two things. So
Okay.
number one, and this is the number one spot. So for me, my favorite thing to cook is actually something new. So it's not a dish. But when I'm having the most fun in the kitchen, and what I love about my job that I'm in is I can literally I could be laying in bed at night. I could be driving into work. I could be anywhere. A light bulb will go off and be like, oh, what if I did this and this? So the most fun I have in the kitchen is when I have an idea, I get the ingredients, I'm playing around in the kitchen, I'm tweaking it, I'm working on it, it comes together, and then I serve it that night, and I can get a reaction from guests that night. Yeah. That's the best. Like for me, that is, so it's not one dish. It's just whenever when you have some inspiration and you're
Right.
working on something. Cause like, I think about let's say if my job was a architect to building skyscrapers, well, that's a 10-year project to build that skyscraper.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas in one day, I could be like, oh, what if I made a mint julep creme brulee? And then I can get all the ingredients, I can put it together and go, oh, well, hot dang. That really works. Then I serve it. And then I go out to a table and talk to the guests. They look at me and their eyes light up and they tell me they loved it. Best feeling on the planet. Like
Sure.
just as a chef, that is the best. That's when I'm having the most fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as probably my favorite thing to cook, it's jambalaya. Like as far as just like, it's a good old fashioned jambalaya. And I can kind of quickly tell you a story about why that is. And it goes back to kind of my origin of working at White Oak. White Oak, we used to do these weddings, and we used to, at that time, every wedding had a big old black iron pot of jambalaya on the wedding. Yeah. It's hearty, it feeds a lot of people. It's Louisiana, boom, every wedding had jambalaya on it. Well, whenever I was like 16, 17, just starting to cook, the head chef always made jambalaya. And eventually I'd been there about 2 years, and I said, well, I was paying attention. I said, let me start making it. And she was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like she showed me. And then I never, once they let me make it, I thought like only the top dog was allowed to make the jambalaya. So like once I started making it, I was like, y'all back up. I own this. So I've probably made thousands of batches of jambalaya. So, and still to this day, like it's the one thing that there's just something comforting about it. I've just done it so many times. That's like my one soul food kind of just dish. I can always go back to that. Like I can legitimately say, I just enjoy making this. Like it's just a pleasure every time I make it. Yeah. I have so much, and like at a restaurant now, it's not on the menu. So even now, if I make it now, it's almost something special. So right. So that's like my favorite thing to cook. But like I said, that's a far number two from what I mentioned firsthand. Whenever I just catch an inspiration and I get to create, and then when it works out, like that's the best.
Yeah. Because I was thinking when one of the first dishes I made when I moved away, I moved to graduate school back in early 90s, and I had a couple small little cookbooks, and so it was eating mostly fast food stuff, but I made a jambalaya, and that was one of the first things that actually tasted like, I mean, it was one of the best things I had made ever. Of course, I'd been cooking a full maybe year or so when I made that thing, and I think I ate on it for 3 days, but it was that same sort of that thing. It wasn't exactly the way my mom made it, but it was one of those things that was like, man, this is good. And so I can see when you make a good jambalaya and you get it in your style, that's very satisfying. So that's good to hear.
It's such a classic. What I love about it is, again, this is something, it's a great lesson for chefs. Because whenever I was young, when I was that teenage Jeremy who was making it at White Oak, it was very easy. I love to open up the spice rack and just look at all that mixture of spices. Yeah. And then, when you're young, and it was like, what if I just sprinkle it? I'm going to spike mine with just a little bit of chili powder, a little cumin. I might give it a little kick, blah, blah, blah. I play around with it. And what I come to realize is, no, you don't need all that. Whatever, to make a good jambalaya, it's not about the spices that's going to make it magic. It's really that technique. It's browning your sausages and your meats to that dark caramelized color, then cooking your onion, celery, bell pepper, and garlic, sweating all that in and scraping that caramelization. That's where the flavor comes from. Not just throwing a bunch of stuff in the pot, but really the focusing on the technique and building and developing those flavors is really how you get the best out of that dish. Yeah. And I think that's what I love the most about it.
Oh, yeah.
So
I agree.
Is this recipe, do you have this on the Homus house or your?
Oh, yeah. I think
your recipe.
I think my jambalaya recipe is on our Homus house website.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. We'll swipe it and put it on the YouTube description here. So
perfect.
Yeah.
I know our time's basically toward the end here, but I was going to say one question I had for you. I've heard the story with your last name, Langlois. I mean, have you done any connections to the supposed Madame Langlois who taught the what do they call her, the first cooking school in the U.S. or something like that? Or
first cooking school in the U.S. and they call her the grandmother of Creole cuisine. So I've lied before and say, oh yeah, I'm a direct descendant. But no, I don't. But no, there was someone in history named Madame Langlois, and she was this famous Creole cook and did cooking schools and classes and this, that, and other. I don't think I'm directly related, but hey, it's a good story.
Yeah.
And hey, Jeremy, I promise when we get that Spotify deal, you can come on for 10 hours. I'll talk to you for 10 hours for sure.
Okay. Anyway, all right. We're ready. I got stories.
We'll do it. We'll do like Joe Rogan Cajun style, it'll be perfect.
There we go. I'm game.
Well, yeah, I did have one last question though. Okay. I saw this posted Friday, or was it yesterday? Or do you have a video yet on how you do the chicken and waffles dish?
I guess I'm going to have to, because that's been a hit. Yep. Well, everybody got to have a
really
chicken.
Good.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're recording this on a Sunday. We did it this morning. I did a chicken and waffles. Classic kind of brunch dish. But I made a olive oil herb waffle, kind of a little savory. Chicken marinated buttermilk, just crispy fried, pretty traditional. Topped it with I made this syrup, but the syrup was bacon, Trinity cooked down into it, equal parts balsamic vinegar and Steen's cane syrup, cooked down, and then the bacon folded back in, and then we top the chicken off of that, and it's just incredible.
Oh my God.
Sounds incredible.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
Killing
it's
me.
really good, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, David, we gotta stop, man. I'm gonna.
Yeah, no.
I was starting chewing on my coffee cup here or something. You know, this is getting
You need
rough.
folks go out and check their Facebook page and look at the picture. Maybe Jeremy can throw it in at the end in editing, just to see how good that thing looks. Because I mean, it sounds even better the way you described it just now. So I'm about tempted to drive over now.
I know. I was tempted when somebody did chicken and waffles up here, and they did like a jalapeno maple syrup, and I was like, "Wow, that's really crazy." Right. And then you just describe yours, and it's like order of magnitude, you know, more intense. And I'm like, "That's Louisiana. That's the Louisiana way. We're just gonna take things and go bam." You know, oh, sorry, that's
big
copyrighted.
Flavors,
I can't say that, but.
You know, Louisiana cuisine so much. I think people get such a misnomer of it's just spicy. You know, people think Louisiana food, they think it's spicy. It's really not. Actually, when it comes to spice, I'm a wimp. I don't like, you know, my kids eat hot Cheetos, and I try one. I'm like, no, those are too spicy. I'll stick with the regular Cheetos. But we love big, bold flavors. It's got to be well seasoned. And when I say well seasoned, salt, pepper. It doesn't have to be cayenne or hot sauce or Tabasco or anything like that. Just well seasoned, and then big flavors, big contrasting flavors. Like I said, vinegar and Steen's cane syrup, sweet, sour, just big contrasting flavors. We love it.
Well, I mean, if you guys see this episode and you go visit Homus house, name drop me and David and just say,
there you go. Perfect.
Chef Jeremy. Can't guarantee he's going to come out and see you, because especially if there's a bunch of it, it'd be like, not another one. But, you know, whatever the case may be, I really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday afternoon. You know, it's family time and things like that.
That's a blast.
Very generous of you to take some time out of your day to talk to us.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited. We're gonna eat. We're gonna come to your place, and we're gonna eat. And don't lose that chicken and waffles recipe. I will actually stay the night in one of those little cottages just so I can get that the next day. You know. So
done and done.
All right.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for your time, and we look forward to having you back on sometime down the road. Especially when the new book comes out, right? Got the book.
Done. Yeah. Would love it. Would love it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot. What a cool guy. I mean.
Oh yeah. He's a ball of energy.
He is a ball of energy. You know, he makes us look like we're just kind of chilling. Like, you know, he's got all this. You know, look, I've been around enough chefs in my time to know that when you work back of house, you can get beaten down pretty hard, and you start to develop this sense of cynicism that it's almost inevitable in organizations or kitchens that are dysfunctional. And clearly he's had the opportunity to work for some legends and experience things that I think a lot of chefs and upcoming chefs would love to be able to experience themselves.
In some respects, he kind of happened into it, but then, as we talk about in the episode, I mean, he has got, and this is from a engineer talking about how you know he understands being a chef works, because there's the classical path of apprenticing and working your way up, and then there's the more modern path with the culinary schools. And to me, you know, I think he's had both in his experience. I mean, 16-year-old working as a dishwasher at White Oak for John Folse.
Man, we should put a disclaimer at the beginning of these shows. If you're hungry, go grab a snack before sitting down to watch it, because it is, when you have somebody as lively as Chef Jeremy on, who loves talking about food, and I also just saw his video. He did just a seared steak, but he put some chimichurri on top, and the way he did it just looked really good. And I'm going, oh man, I got to try that on my big green egg at home.
But then also we got the that exclusive information that he shared with us.
Yeah. He didn't even tell us about that. You know, we gotta screen these guests a little bit more beforehand. We have a thorough vetting process here.
That was still, I mean, that's very cool, and I can't wait for that to come out because
yeah, me too.
I will. I'll have to probably bring some books to the used bookstore just to start adding space. Don't tell Astrid though. She
doesn't. Our wives don't watch our episodes. I mean, come on, it's like they're like, oh, that's fun. Go have fun with your little show.
Yeah.
You know, so you probably could say things in confidence here. And what's going to happen is the infamous Hubble Information Network will kick into high gear and go, do you realize what your husband said on YouTube about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably because my mom and sister have watched. So.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. So whatever we said to all of our family, we're sorry. for now, for past and future episodes, we're sorry. You know, we love y'all. Yeah, we do. And, you know, if you don't want us talking smack about you, get on the damn show like we've been asking you to do. Okay. So links to the recipe below in the description for the waffles. We'll also provide a link to Chef Jeremy's favorite jambalaya recipe. That's
I can't wait to make that too. Yep.
Until next time, folks, and until next time, David.
Jeremy,
we'll see you soon.
Yep, y'all stay classy.
Stay classy.
Sorry, the damn Anchorman crap just came into my head. So.
Okay, so a little bit delayed there, but stay classy.
Yeah, you'll have it ready next time.
All right, see you, everybody. Bye.
Okay, see y'all later. Bye.